around if we're not. That's what we wanted to check. Okay. So at least just discuss those two items for executive, but we can't do open, right? Yep. We would schedule that as promptly as possible. We can discuss dates right after this, so we make sure that it's prompt. Any other questions or comments for Amanda regarding this before we move on? For the purpose of time, because I know a parent did come in here today, I'll entertain a motion to move up the item from, let me see, item number 4 under action items. Right before the consent agenda.
Second it.
All that say aye?
Aye.
Aye. I'll entertain a motion to uphold the superintendent's decision for a student suspension. Is there a second? Ask, confirm, and confirm with the committee. Is there a second?
Second.
All that say aye? Again, all that say aye? The motion fails. Next item?
Next item is the consent agenda.
Are there any questions or comments regarding the consent agenda? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve.
Add that
There are 8 recalls from the teachers that we laid off at the last meeting. We have recalled 8 of the 11. So, just want to keep everyone updated on that.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All that say aye?
Aye.
Consent agenda approved. Next item, please.
Next is PTO, PTA, EPLAC reports.
Good evening. Can you hear me? I don't know how to work this thing, I'm sorry. Okay. So we had our last EPLAC meeting on Wednesday, May 29th, over at Kent Heights Elementary School. It was well attended. We had a workshop with Mindful Discipline with Cheryl Carter. We had a very interactive workshop and great response. And to follow up with our workshop, there is going to be a workshop tomorrow hosted by Ripon, similar but more in depth in regards to conscious discipline. In regards to our agenda that we had some great news in the section of our meeting, where it was recognized that Myron Francis collected money to support the Tomorrow Fund. Hennessy also supported the Tomorrow Fund, and we had a great turnout from our schools on the route for the Torch Run for Special Olympics. I was happy to see our community come out and support that Torch Run, and we also had our Special Olympics team from East Providence do such a well time there, and a great turnout from our community supporting that. Going forward, we have coming up for next year as our planning, we are going to be sending out a parent survey just to see what the needs are of our families and how we can help support them with upcoming workshops. Other than that, we are looking for outreach opportunities just to spread the word of who we are and what we do to support the families here in East Providence. We are going to be doing Welcome to Townies, I think that's coming up. So we will be present at that one. And again, we are looking for cooperation and collaboration with the admins and principals on setting up the fall open house dates with us so we can attend those and explain to the families who we are and what we do. Any questions? I'm free to answer. If not, we will see you back in the fall.
Are there any PTA reports? Next item, please.
Next is the superintendent's report, Dr. Frand.
As Ms. Beauchesne said, we recalled 8 teachers from the layoff list. We are in round 4 of interviews. The last set of interviews in round 4 will be tomorrow, and then we'll be posting the next set of positions later in the week. So we do hope that we can continue to call people back. Facilities update.
Good evening. Starting off with the high school, we had identified a roof issue, which is being repaired starting on the 17th of this month. Also, the high school baseball and softball field toilets and seating considerations are being explored as well. That seems to be a rising concern in the community that we are starting to address now. Also, we plan on adding a few handicap parking spaces toward the rear of the building, back near the halftime hut, adjacent to that traffic circle, because the nearest ones are over near the greenhouse, which is seen as a little bit too far away for handicapped folks to transport themselves to the field if they want to view anything on the multi-use stadium. That's it for the high school. Riverside Middle School, the science room and media center conversions are progressing as expected with minimal issues or interruption. Also, the new two-story storefront windows that highlight the media center, that is the library, have started to be installed as well. Out at Martin Middle School, RIDEM, the Department of Environmental Management, has given full approval of the SAGE environmental plan for contaminated soil remediation. This has cleared the way for further foundation preparation and the subsequent pouring of concrete foundations, footings, and pads to progress now through the balance of the summer. In the admin building, we recently had a delivery truck collide with the building in the upper soffit area. The top of the truck took a sharp turn, and the rear of the truck bumped into the building, caused about a 17-foot scratch in the newly installed aluminum soffit. The delivery company has assumed complete responsibility for it and is pursuing a repair through their insurance company. Also last week, on Friday, a roof leak at the administration building was corrected and water remediated with the assistance of Clean Care. If you recall, the significant amount of rain entered the building, but no significant damage was reported after the water was removed in the admin center. That's the south end of the admin center. Also, the food pantry that has been operating out of the administration building for over the course of the year will be open during the summer on an appointment-only basis. Out at Waddington, phase 1 of the Waddington renovation plan is, the renovation project is slated to start on June 17th as well. There are 2 large metal storage containers in the backyard of Waddington right now, in which will be stored teacher materials and furniture while the construction take place. We suspect we're going to have to add another third 40-foot metal container to hold everything that needs to be held during construction. Out at Myron J. Francis, the boiler replacement project is on target, prepped to start on the 17th of June. They're going to demolish the existing boiler between the 17th and the 20th, allow Camp Invention to take place, and then come back in the second week in July, and between the second week in July and the end of July, possibly the first week of August, install the new boilers that are going into Myron J. Francis. At Orlo Elementary, the courtyard renovation project is on target and slated to start the week of the 17th as well. At Hennessy will be hosting East Providence Park and Recreation Day Camp in their gymnasium on rainy days, as we have done in the past for a number of years. And Oldham Elementary will also be hosting ESY Summer School in 13 different classrooms for the entire month of July. That concludes my report. Any questions? Which one, Tony? Yeah, as soon as Lockheed finishes the 2 window walls on, that are facing the Riverside Library, they're going to progress over to Orlo, take care of what the problems there are, and then move into Silver Spring. But also, they have recently purchased materials or sent out orders for purchased materials. And to my knowledge, they haven't received everything they need. But those materials are coming in, and they are slated to go from Riverside directly into Orlo and then to Silver Spring. Anything else?
Enos, do you have a finance report or any update?
Good evening, everyone. Just quickly, we remain in good shape for the fiscal year. Just one item that I just wanted to point out to you for your knowledge. So on page 2, account number 54321, on the maintenance for the electrical. So you're going to see a budget of $10,000 versus an expense of $66,274. And that was from If you remember, a couple years ago, we did an LED replacement project for all of the buildings within the district. The only building that did not get done at that time, can't tell you why, was the administration building. So, with an offer that we had from National Grid for a rebate, so while that cost us $66,000 because we didn't have an electrician on staff at that time, so we had to hire someone. So for the $66,000 expense, we got a $36,000 rebate from National Grid to offset that cost. So I just wanted to, as you were looking at that finance report, just wanted you to know that. Are there any other questions?
Question, can you send this committee that bill for the 60? We're looking at, they billed us for 66,000.
Yep.
68,000, I'm sorry, and we're gonna get reimbursed. Could you send this committee that bill?
Absolutely.
I don't wanna say just send it to me, if you could send it to everybody
Sure.
tomorrow.
I'll send you the bill, and then I will also send you a copy of the rebate check
Thank
that
you.
we got. You're welcome. Sure. Yeah, no. Well, so we sort of, we set the budget and we go. We do have money that we have not drawn down yet from the ESSER 3 grant that will help to offset some of that. We'll cover most of it, but not all. That is one of those things that we certainly don't know what's going to happen in terms of who's going to be calling out sick, who's going to be on a long-term leave. So we budget, however.
Budgeted $650,000 for subs this year.
Correct. Yep,
And we're at $854,000.
correct.
And last year, we spent $900,000 on subs.
Correct. Yep.
And then in 2022, we spent $700,000. In 2021, $900,000. We still have all of September and October to go.
Correct.
We're already $205,000.
That will be a line item that we will be keeping an eye on.
Additional questions, comments, or if we need more time?
Well, we kind of need dumbfounded. How much money do we have in ESSER? How much money do we have left before we have to spend it in September?
Off the top of my head, I don't have that.
Send us, we
Sure.
were told, Ryan and I, when we went to the school committee 101, to make sure we check with our finance directors and ask them how much money we have left that needs to still be spent, and our district was mentioned. So if you could get that information and send it to all of ours, we would really appreciate
Absolutely.
it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just a follow-up question on the remaining roughly $3.2 million that the school department has the right to spend on this project. We're going to try to research if we could do other things with that. Give it to the city give it back to us.
Talking about the
we
high
put
school
it in that-
project. Okay, yep.
Exactly, yep.
Okay, yep. Yep, so that is still there. So the building committee met last night and they formally approved the list of capital expenditures that we had reviewed in previous months. That will be still an ongoing process that we follow over the coming months. There'll be some RFPs that you'll be seeing. But yeah, so that there's still a number depending upon what RFPs come in at and what the bottom line is. As Chris had mentioned, now we're adding in some seating behind the backstop for the baseball field, whatever number that will come in. So, yeah, there's still an amount left that we have not turned over yet.
I'm not sure. I was at that meeting last night, but for whatever reason, didn't hear. If we're gonna do baseball, we're gonna do softball. Just make sure we got both going, okay?
Of course.
So,
It comes here, right? Equitable.
intent for the building committee to spend the $7.4 million? Following this, just so I follow the paperwork, and when I was at that building committee, they gave us a list of about 27 items on it that came up to about 3.3 or 3.1.
3.2 million. Yep.
That's what they spent, and then at that point, the balance was gonna roll back to the school committee.
Well, if there are other things that come forward, I certainly don't know, but the issue would be, is that once the building committee feels that everything is done, then whatever that final number is, that then would be turned. I believe that the school committee, the building committee would make that recommendation, and then the school committee would have to take that vote.
I thought that was already done. By the
To
20s.
to turn that money back? No, there's been no action.
To say for the school committee, if we wanted to say what we could spend it on. Because didn't they come up with a list with 27 items?
Correct, yep.
And that was the part about the 7.4. That package of 27 items came to 3.2 million or something.
Right.
The balance of that on the paperwork that I got rolled back to the school committee to say, is there anything that we want to see done to this building?
Yep, and certainly, if there are things that you see that you want to have done, please bring that to the building committee, right? And we can bring that
But
forward.
they have the legal right or the intentions to just keep adding things to that, like as what Chris said, the items that, with the seating and stuff like that, that's gonna come out of the balance of the 3.1 million that was left over after the 27 items.
So I think we're sort of operating on how things were set up, and that my understanding and the way I've been working is that years ago that the school committee gave the building committee this authority to move forward with developing and purchasing the items that we need for here. Certainly, it's not a free-for-all for whatever needs to be done. It has to fit within the realm of fitting within a capital expense for the benefit of
Got you up into that point.
Yep.
The question that when we discussed at the last meeting, so we could not give that back to the city, and then the city give it back to us to put in a capital improvement that we have no money, would be the question. Me personally, I don't think so, because the bond was for this high school, was what the vote was for.
Yep.
But I just wanted to see if there was any clarification, if anybody looked into that.
So, no, we didn't look into that. So, but I can certainly follow up on that, and I will communicate.
Excellent, Craig, thank you.
Okay, you're
Thank
welcome.
Great to put that on a capital improvement and get 50% reimbursement on that 3.2 million. But if not, I'll candidly say, I don't want it going back to the city. We'll spend it on this beautiful structure, and if it takes us all summer, and if we need some more equipment to maintain it, that's what I would like to see. But I would really love to see if we could put it back into capital improvement and get 50% reimbursement on that would be great. Thank you.
Couldn't agree with you more. Thank you.
I just want to throw a layer on there for Tony or for anybody. These building committee meetings are public meetings. They're posted to the public where?
Website?
want to let folks, be aware who are, paying attention to the meeting that, as a member of the public, I did attend the meetings last night. It is a really good opportunity to hear about items that folks are, considering to present to the school committee, or where, their ideas are in terms of how to, fluctuate, spend these funds, right? So Tony, just wanted to, just let you know that and remind folks that these building committee meetings, they're open to the public. So, I would encourage folks who have interest to definitely attend.
Track them, they're always that Monday before our
I
school
believe
committee
it's the
meeting.
second Monday of the month at 5:30.
Not the one next month, because there wasn't going to be a quorum with the building committee for the new project, so that one actually is the Monday after our regularly scheduled school committee meeting. That's the only exception to that rule.
July's will be the third Monday of the month, moving forward. I don't want to confuse folks. Sorry.
Just July.
Just
July.
Okay.
July 4th is the reason why there's been some complications. Any additional questions or comments for our Director of Finance? We'll keep an eye out for those emails. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, please. First, we have the policy review cycle. I don't believe I received anything else after the last meeting, but I wanted to hear from the rest of the committee. If there are any additional recommendations for changes or additions? A good chunk of this was already existing, so it's only a minimal portion that was added in, so. Any questions or comments?
Has our legal team looked over these policies?
Yes, the initial, this initial policy was already sent to them initially, so this is just a small portion that follows general laws again. Any other additional question or comments? We do have one other policy for tonight. Table's over to Jessica.
Nothing, yeah, nothing's changed on this one either, so it's still.
And for those who are watching, I will just add, we did have a full discussion about this the last meeting, when it was up for first read, so that's why it's kind of,
This is, the
Not much.
superintendent will have the power to address any situations not specifically covered by a policy. So, self-explanatory. Appropriate, we will make a policy.
any questions or comments regarding the administration in the absence of policy? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the next item. Have the, sorry, I'll turn over the mic.
Next is the building committee report.
Craig, is it okay if you join us?
I think Director Murphy hit some of the high points for us with the approval from DEM that we received. One of the discussion items that we were talking about from Martin last night was how the bus entrance was initially going to be talked about being off of Bliss Street. That has now been changed. It will not be on Bliss. The buses will be entering the complex from Brown Street. So that whole north area has now been redeveloped to accommodate the buses entering and exiting from Brown Street. Waddington, as Chris had said, is going to be starting up in full force for next week. This will be Summer Slam 1. Part 2 will be summer of 2025. We certainly appreciate the assistance from Waddington, from the teachers that are in the back area and having to pack up all of their stuff. It's quite a task, and we certainly appreciate all the help and the assistance that they've given us so that when Monday comes, everyone's going to be starting in full force there. Any questions?
Follow up to see if there's gonna be a cost effective to change that from Bliss back to Brown Street?
None. None.
I asked the question last night.
So an engineer designed trying to take 12, 14 school buses in from a hill on a corner to go into a new junior high, and we're gonna just change it back to Brown Street, and there's no engineering, traffic control that's gonna be built into that? That's all gonna be straight across the board? Just move one driveway from Bliss is now going back to Brown, and is the length of the driveways, nothing's gonna be different?
Kind of going to be like Riverside setup now. Like as Riverside is, you come all the way down, you do the UE at the end and come out the other side. That's how it's going to go. Just how, pretty much exactly how Riverside is. Drop off right in front of the school.
I mean, my recollection was the cost impact was none.
About like 15 to 16 school buses fit in that area all at once. Principal Marchand made a good point of stating that all the buses don't arrive at the same time, but that of course the buses that do arrive first are the ones that will be either unloading students or loading students onto those buses, and that would be the side that is right next to the school. Only once those school buses leave will the buses then move up closer. If there's a line, they'll move up. And then only once they move up will they actually load or unload students. So safety has also been very much heavily discussed with the principal and people in the buildings to see what works currently and if this proposed project also worked as well. So,
Thank you.
Welcome. And then just the other piece from Martin, they're trying to figure out, we recognize the importance of having a basketball court.
I wasn't going to bring that up because if you noticed last night, we got in a little bit of a fight, me and Principal because we were moving the basketball court, and I said one place and she said another, and it kind of got ugly. So yeah, it's still a topic of contention, but we're going to work it out.
Just so I follow that, so when you say we're gonna have the outdoor basketball
I
court.
can promise you, if I have anything to say, yes, we are. We just have to figure out where it's going to be.
All right, because I walk my dog down that school for the last 3 years. The people that used that basketball court before it was destroyed.
Yeah, it was.
Well, everybody knows, but why is it even a discussion about, it shouldn't even be a discussion of what's there, because I get to hear I'm standing up. I get very razzled when there's even a discussion to take a basketball court away. I understand we're discussing
It's a
where to put
discussion,
it.
that's the issue, because where it was, it can't be anymore. So we have to find a place on the site to put it. So it's
And then the place I found was right next to the pre-K playground, which is not ideal.
Right.
So that's all, we're just
important.
trying, it's not
No,
ideal, so.
it's very important. I
agree
was
with
the
you,
first
Tony.
class in there, and I get very razzled when things get taken away from my kids.
It was said last night, I adamantly stated, find me a middle school that does not
Superintendent
have
too.
a basketball court.
Heavily discussed.
Heavily discussed.
Heavily discussed. But definitely something that will be continued to be discussed, and I'm sure barriers and, will be discussed also on if it is next to the pre-K, I'm sure there's ways to get creative to make sure that the pre-K students are,
But they are on, yeah.
the-
And it's kind of strange that that's the one thing that we're talking about, but they are doing double time, and I don't mean double time, they are working really, really hard right now, and they are getting stuff done, and they're getting back on track and working very hard.
Next item, please.
The next item is public comments.
First, we have Ms. Courtney Ross.
Now dealing with the repercussions of being removed from our neighborhood and community. So being unable to access child care exchange we'd established, and also attempting to solve challenges presented by traveling to a school outside of our neighborhood. I'm extremely disappointed in the lack of transparency and communication I'd like to know where the public was notified of this change of eliminating kindergarten class and changing the enrollment. It's my understanding that staff and administration notified some families already within the school community to register their children as soon as possible. As a newcomer, I'm feeling slighted. I looked for a policy but couldn't find one at the time. So please tell me, how are you treating community members equally without a policy in place for a situation like this? I did notice the emergency statement, the administration in the absence of policies, but that's an unacceptable substitute for policy. I understand that there are external constraints at play. You could have predicted a high probability of this occurring based on funding history and demographic trends the data has been showing. But what's the point of spending money to collect data if you're not using it to develop policy in response? Proactively giving yourself carte blanche over the situation, again, is not an acceptable substitute for policy, nor is it an acceptable way to do governance. We need to prioritize transparency and policy, perhaps develop one that doesn't separate individual children from their neighbors.
Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Julie Lauterbach Colby. I apologize if I mispronounced your name.
Hello. Here. My name is Julie. I live in Rumford as well, within walking distance of Myron Francis. My child is also a kindergartner, an incoming kindergartner, who will enter this fall. We got lucky, as opposed to what you just heard from Courtney. And that's the only way I can say this, because my child is registered at Myron only because O, and I'll refer to them as O, was in pre-K receiving walk-in speech through an IEP. And that is the only way that we were registered in time to go to our neighborhood school. Had we not been receiving these services, we would be in a similar boat to my friend Courtney, who you just heard from. And I'd like to speak a little bit more about this friendship, because I think it is a situation which often gets overlooked, taken for granted, if you will, when decisions are made. And that is precisely, what do you do when you have had to build your entire community support system from the ground up? Courtney and I did not know each other when we both moved to Rhode Island around 7 years ago. Both of our families are plane rides away. I'll speak for myself, they all live on the West Coast. You can imagine how challenging it is to have any sort of familiar support. Contrast this with our experience in O's preschool. It's a very familiar to me now story. We were one of only 2 families without any family backup for childcare. Everyone else had an aunt, a grandparent, a cousin. So what do? In both our cases, we independently threw ourselves into neighborhood outreach. We walked and biked the streets in our we met our neighbors, we exchanged phone numbers with anyone who would give them to us, and we went to community events, frequented the library, and eventually we met each other. We did all the things. Her oldest and mine are the same age. Our kids get along, and more to the point, we have developed a care support system with each other that we independently do not have outside of that. Our families hang out, we travel together, and as the 2 older ones have grown up, we plan to be each other's backups. Again, let me stress this, when other common supports do not exist. Myron Francis is within biking and walking distance of both our houses. We both wanted our kids to have this experience of living, playing, and growing up in an environment that has been familiar to them since birth. So imagine my shock when Courtney called to say that without any public announcement, no deadline for registration given, that Myron Francis had cut a kindergarten classroom before it had a full picture of how many registrants were incoming this fall. Makes no sense to me. And now those 2 kindergarten classrooms are capped at 25 students, and there is a waiting list. I don't want to be overdramatic here, but this is exactly the kind of community severance I was under the impression a neighborhood school seeks to amend. So I want to know what is being done to ensure that moving forward, there is transparency when it comes to alerting the community of registration deadlines and unexpected classroom reductions. And it seems to me that this is the least that can be expected of the schools.
Ms. Kim Morato?
I'm going to just take this because it's hard to hear if we don't speak right into it, but good evening. First of all, Dr. Bowler, I wish you all the best. You are one of my favorite people, and you will be missed. So, all right, so I am here tonight as a parent, teacher, and taxpayer. I used to attend school committee meetings quite frequently in person in the past, but like many other people, I've gotten quite lazy since the pandemic, and I enjoy watching them from home instead. I felt compelled to come to last month's second meeting and tonight's meeting because something about the tone of the last couple of meetings has not set well with me. If my comments seem a little late or out of place, it is only because public comment was not allowed at the second meeting in May. First, I want to begin on a positive note. Dr. Ferrand has worked for the East Providence School Department for 24 years. During that time, in the various roles she has served in, she has proved that she makes decisions in the best interest of all children. I do not know many others that work as hard as she does. She can be found attending events at many of the city's schools, serving on multiple committees, and even substitute teaching when the need arises. I fondly remember how excited my own daughters were when she came in to read to their second grade class when she served as our assistant superintendent, even though one of them could only comment on her outfit and how well coordinated it was. Dr. Ferrand wears many hats and has an all-hands-on-deck approach to leading this district. During the last couple of meetings, there were a couple of school committee members that seemed to imply that she did not have the best interests of students in mind when she presented a list of teacher layoffs, which, by the way, tonight we sit here, 8 out of the 11 are recalled. Let me be clear that no one likes teacher layoffs. I'm not up here advocating for them. For my first 10 years of teaching, I received a layoff notice every year. Usually, as these were, it was precautionary. And I will say, I never received a layoff notice from my superintendent. They usually had HR or the principal deliver these notices. The fact that Dr. Ferrand chose to deliver these personally, along with Mr. Shattuck, should be applauded. Thank you. They're a good audience. I watched the last few meetings and was surprised at how some members could not understand, despite repeated explanations from both Dr. Ferrand and school committee member Beauchene, that only teachers were on the list of layoffs. Rhode Island General Laws 16-13-3 requires that, and I quote, if the dismissal is based on fiscal exigency or program reorganization, the notice of dismissal shall be given to the teacher in writing on or before June 1st of the school year, immediately preceding the school year in which the dismissal is to become effective. This is a state law. They used to hand these out in March, and many more people got them when they had to do that. In response to the presented list, Chairwoman Furtado stated that had the list been a little more balanced, it maybe could have been easier to follow, but because all of these are positions that directly face our students every day, that is not something that I think shows that students are our priority. Committee member Brandel echoed a similar sentiment. I was disappointed in those comments. It became clear to me that perhaps there was a deeper agenda. In closing, I will just say that all kids will win when our school committee works collaboratively and supportively with our superintendent and all school department employees. And isn't that what we are all here for anyway? Thank you.
Next, we have Ms. Tori Jessup Crowley.
So I just wanted to say thank you for your response to my previous email in regards to legislation for have that flexibility in your school year. It did pass the House and the Senate this week, so I just want to let you know that we now have some flexibility in our favor. So thank you for that response and supporting that. In regards to my other issues that I've come up prior to in this past school year and years prior before that is regards to literacy. I'm always a proponent of literacy within our district and in my community. So I was happy to hear not just, with RIDE putting out their guidance on their PLPs, which I did help give some input to, but I was happy to hear that our school department also did some follow-up on that. I would ask that you would please do a follow-up parent workshop on that, please, and not rely on the schools to do it, but as a district workshop so we can have great conversations about that. Because in the past, I have asked for literacy nights to be a district-wide initiative, just like they were for math nights, and those that never got followed through on. And I'm kind of upset at that because there's so much happening with the Right to Read Act that I, myself and my group, as you know, Decoding Dyslexia of Rhode Island, pushed for, and there's great knowledge, and East Providence is being used as one of the model districts, and our parents need to know what's going on. And each school, although they have the right to do their own things, I think we need to all be on the same page when it comes to this, and how we approach our learners and how we educate our parents and other stakeholders so we can all come together to support our students in literacy, because we all want them to succeed. With that in mind, and having still another child in our school district who has dyslexia that has not been fully remediated yet, unfortunately, and I can publicly say that, you know, I'm really disappointed on the way things have been handled with my child. So I'm asking again, not just that as a parent, but as part of EPLAC, we have asked for like an index of what we have for qualified individuals in our schools to help our children and service our children. So I'm asking again, I would like to know how many certified personnel we have that is certified to instruct children in the full Wilson reading system and in Orton-Gillingham, which are two scientifically proven approaches to help children with dyslexia that need more than the Tier 1 instruction, Tier 2 instruction, and that they need that Tier 3. If we're not going to give them an IEP, then we need to follow through the PLP plans and give them that structured literacy, that intensity that they need for them to learn how to have successful reading skills. So with that request, I'm asking you, because my child will be going into high school within the next 2 years, I need to know that there's someone going to be certified. 10 years ago, I was in the same boat. That's why I helped write the legislation in 2015. And I had the same problem with my daughter going into middle school, that there was no one certified to teach her in Wilson and deemed that she didn't need an IEP, so we're going to go under the PLP and RTI, and then that failed her, okay? So I really do need to know that there is someone in the next school that's going to be able to help her. And not just her, dyslexia is 20% of our population. So she's not the only child in our district that is struggling. And if you look at our NEET scores, our RICAS scores, you know that there are children that are struggling in literacy. And that's always been a forefront of me in trying to help others, not just my daughter, when I try to advocate. So if someone can just answer me, and knowing that we have people in every school building, our reading specialists ought to be certified in at least one of those approaches when they're doing pull-out services, so they can help those children. You can't tell me that there's not one child in each of those school buildings, in each elementary school, middle school, and high school, that has dyslexia, because that scientists will. I would appreciate some response to that. Thank you.
Thank you. I was just going to follow up.
Get that report and you'll get it.
I do want to recognize and thank all the parents that came today. We really appreciate provide their contact information. We will be speaking with the superintendent and making sure that questions that were posed today are answered, and also ask but I do again want to thank the parents for attending today. It's much appreciated. Next item, please.
Next is action items.
If there are any questions or comments regarding the policies, share. If not, I'll entertain a vote to approve the policy review cycle policy.
To approve. I'll make the motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All that say aye.
Aye.
Are there any nays? Approved. Next, we have I'll entertain a motion to approve the administration in the absence of policy. That's for a second read. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second? All that say aye? Aye. Are there any nays? Approved. I know you did include the Chartwell's food service contract in our packets. I'm not sure if there's anything you want to add to the committee. I thought it was pretty straightforward. It doesn't seem like there's been any major changes from the last one. And correct me if I'm wrong, Director of Finance. Unfortunately, it's RIDE that has a contract with Chartwell's, and it forces our hand to approve it.
Correct.
Unfortunate.
So this is, gosh, I think our 24th year with Chartwell's. They have just been such a valuable partner for us. The contract and the format that we have is through the state bid process. The state went out to bid for food services a number of years ago, and ever since then, we have been participating in that, so that this contract format is pretty much standard. And it's a year-by-year contract, so that's why every year we have to bring it. Thank you.
I'll entertain any comments.
Yeah, so it's not up for discussion, and don't get me wrong.
It is, it's just consider.
Don't get me wrong, every year since we started doing this, before we could bid on it, when I first started, we could bid on our own food. And I love Melissa and I love Chef. It has nothing to do with them, but when can we decide, like, if a fifth grader and a kindergartner don't get the same proportional lunch? Like, 5 chicken nuggets for the fifth grader and 5 chicken nuggets for the kindergartner. Like, when does that conversation happen?
So I would suggest that you speak with our food services director, who develops the menus. So the menus and the portions, everything is regulated by the USDA.
I know that. I know.
I get it, but I know, but.
But I mean, there's nothing we can do. Like, we gotta sign this anyway. It's just not fair.
A question out of curiosity, this is not entirely relevant, but has Chartwell's brought in any additional fridges or freezers into the schools? I know the previous director of facilities had pointed out that they were kind of installing additional appliances to the schools in order to keep it there. I wasn't sure if that's something that's increased or if it's just stayed the same.
So the school lunch fund is meant to be self-sustaining. So it's separate and apart from everything that the district does. Separate account, separate everything. So everything that we do, if there's a new dishwasher that we need, we're putting in one at RMS. We purchase that for the school lunch fund. The new walk-in unit that we're putting on the outside of RMS, and all of the brick work, the concrete work, the hookups and all that, school lunch fund's paying for that. We had to, as part of that project, we had to take the Riverside walk-in unit offline because the asbestos testing that needed to take place. So we then purchased 2 refrigerators and 2 freezer units that we could use for the rest of the school year, knowing that once the new unit is hooked up and ready to go at the beginning of the school year, that we can then move those new units into the other schools and replace those units. So we take really good care of the dishwashers, the sinks, the warmers, anything that we need.
Are there any additional questions or comments for our director, or just comments in general regarding this topic? Committee? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the Chartwell's food service contract for 2024 to 2025.
Make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All that say aye?
Aye.
Are there any nays? All right. Approved? Next item we have is to consider and vote to approve the district non-certified staff layoffs. Superintendent, like to add? I know you provided the list already in our packets.
Did we actually removed one from the list today? We had a resignation, so we took one of the people on the layoff list off. We have 6 non-certified staff. Of those, we had 5 students that had one-to-ones this year that no longer will be in the district next year. So that's 5 positions that have been eliminated. We also had 2 individuals that have been out on leave this year, and they're coming back, so they need to have a position for them. We hope to continue to call people back. Like I said, we had a resignation today, and we were able to take someone off the list immediately.
Let us know which one of these? Which number?
top one.
The top one?
I thought we gave you an updated list. The top one needs to be removed.
Did everyone catch that? The top name on that list has been removed.
I think there's a new list in the
Oh,
Yeah.
mine's somewhere at the bottom of this mic. Any additional questions or comments regarding this? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the district non-certified staff layoffs. Is there a second? All that say aye?
Aye.
Any nays? Approved. Sorry, you can put me down as a nay, Sharon, sorry. Everyone else said approved, though. Next item, we have 6. I'd like to formally entertain a motion to table this. And that's related to the item from the executive session from today. Is there a second?
Second.
All that say aye?
Aye.
Are there any nays? Approved? Next item, we have consider and vote to approve the Central Nurseries contract. That was provided in our packets. I'm not sure if the superintendent would like to go into any of that information, or if Craig.
So this is for the Learning Inside Out grant that we have. This is for the courtyard renovation project at Orlo Avenue. Earlier in the fall of 2023, we had awarded the RFP to Central Nurseries. Since that date, Central Nurseries has been a great partner in working with the staff at Orlo Avenue with changing and editing and more changes and more editing. They've just been really great to work with. As Director Murphy had stated, we are slated for that work to begin for next week. So we're just asking for you to approve the contract for that to get started. Thank you.
Any questions or comments for the
a question.
finance director?
Craig, what was the total sum of the grant awarded?
For Orlo Avenue, it was $100,000. So we came in at $40 under. Lisa Pita spent every penny. She did a good job.
Question, Craig, did Sandy, did legal go through this?
Yes, yep. In fact, they that is a new contract. template that they developed for us.
Got a question in here for you. Got down to $25 per day for every calendar day that there's unexcused delays in this.
Yep. So that is going to change per each project that we have. Again, Central Nurseries has been a valuable partner. They have worked hand in hand with us since the fall, and I reviewed this with the superintendent. Central Nurseries they've done a lot of the work here, and so I felt comfortable with the $25 because they are going to get the job done. And so that amount, depending upon the value of the contract and what the issue is that we're doing, that will change.
One, it is, I've known them probably 30 years almost, a very, very stand-up company. Companies are made up of employees. You know, when we look at Central Nursery, I don't think anybody sitting up here that knows an employee that works there. We recognize the name as a great company. $25, great company. They could grab another job, delay us, a week and a half, go out and make $5,000, $6,000 profit, and they reimburse us $125. Listen, I agree with what you're saying. I also agree with you, but I just like to try to find some standard so any company out there that bids for the city of East Providence knows that there's a penalty clause.
Absolutely.
And if you're not willing to pay the clause or put your company on the line for it, then don't bid the job. That's just my personal opinion, Craig. You know how I've been feeling with that
I know.
for years.
I know.
On that there. And just one last question: do we have drawings or anything that the school committee could see?
Absolutely.
Send that to us. That would be excellent. Just to
Will
make
do.
sure.
Will do. It's
I
going to be.
know they're a great company across the board with drawings and everything, three-dimensional
They've
drawings.
been a pleasure to work with.
Yes.
Orlo staff have been great. They changed their mind, do a drawing. They changed their mind again. But they settled on it, and it's going to look really great.
Now, just a follow-up question: did you put money in the next budget so we can maintain this? Because when they do a beautiful job, the question is going to be, how are we going to maintain it?
Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to hold you to that.
Going to be lots of
We're going to
concrete,
fundraise to
stamped
maintain
brick.
it.
I can't remember if it's stamped concrete, pavers. It sort of changed a couple of
beautiful.
times. It's going to be beautiful.
For generations to come, it's going to be, a really incredible site when they're done. Great
Absolutely.
company.
Yep.
Thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
Any other additional comments from the committee? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the Central Nurseries contract.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All that say aye.
Aye.
Are there any nays? Approved. Next item, please.
Next is announcements.
Before we go into announcements, I'm not sure if the committee, we want to pick out a date right now while we're all here, or if we want to do that after, just share our availabilities with Sharon as everyone leaves for tonight. Again, I don't know if anyone feels uncomfortable by kind of going through their calendar over camera. So, if everyone's okay, we can schedule that now? All right. Are there any dates, Superintendent, that do not work for you at all for the next 2 weeks? I should say between today and the 18th? Start off with that. have we wouldn't have to have 48 hours of posting. That would have to be like the 17th or 18th. 14th is cutting it close, Sharon? How does the 17th or 18th sound for the rest of the committee? Or the 20th? You can, it's okay if you're not available.
I mean, the 7th, potential day for next week.
For you, 18th? That was okay? That's okay with me and Max.
What day?
The 18th? All right, so our next meeting then will be June 18th. Six PM work for everyone?
Yep.
All right, let's do that. All right, any other announcements from the committee?
Well, I had an announcement, but, when's our meeting? June 18th?
Dr. Bowler, I'll see you on the 18th.
Any other announcements? All right, next item, please.
See? Told ya. Oh.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
No, I thought we were going back to executive. Oh, my God.
Is there, sorry, did you say? Is there a second? I'll second. Well, let's say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.